What's going on, guys? So a question that I get asked quite often is from folks wanting to know what the best SUV is for towing a compact to mid-size travel trailer similar to the Forest River Surveyor that we have over there. And this is a really good question because there's a lot of SUVs that are available on the market today. Dodge makes a great one, the Dodge Durango. Jeep makes several great ones. Chevy has the Traverse. GMC has the Arcadia. Ford has the Explorer, as well as the Expedition. There's the Yukon, there's the new Jeep Grand Wagoneer. There's a ton of great SUVs out there. And, you know, the reason why this is such a good question is because whenever you see, like, the Surveyor over there, that size of RV, you're typically talking about an RV that weighs around 6,000 pounds loaded and generally is going to be about 25 to 26 feet long. And that's the perfect example of an RV that's kind of in those dimensions and weight categories. Now, whenever you look at vehicles, a lot of people will often gravitate to a pickup truck because a pickup truck is what's more commonly seen as an RV tow vehicle. But there's a lot of folks with larger families that need something a little bit more spacious inside. So the GMC that we have can seat a maximum of 5 people. If you get this in a lower trim without the center console up front, you could probably seat 6 people, but still you're talking about a truck that's relatively limited. Most folks who get a half-ton truck are going to opt to get it with the center console in the center, simply because that's kind of how you see them, and a lot of people really appreciate that extra storage. I know a lot of folks out there prefer the bench front seat with the fold-down console, but again, the vast majority of pickup trucks that are used to haul RVs around are sold with bucket seats up front and a bench in the back, so you can fit 3 in the back and 2 up front. Now, when you talk about seating comfortably, on a long trip, having 3 people sit across the back is very doable. People do it all the time. We do it all the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's how people want to be seated. So again, a lot of people look at SUVs, and this is my wife's 2019 Ford Expedition Platinum, two-wheel drive vehicle. We've had this since 2019. When we bought it new, we did a full video on it. She absolutely loves this. This is like her baby vehicle. We talk about possibly getting a different vehicle. I'd like to see if she's interested in a Yukon with the same Duramax that's in this truck, just for the fuel economy aspect and to switch things up a little bit. But every time I bring it up, she's like, I don't know if I can trade this in, because she absolutely loves it. And one of the main reasons why she loves it is because it has the bench second row, which is not obstructed by a large center console. I know some folks like the 2 captain's chairs in the back, but we prefer the bench second row. And it also has seating for 3, real seating for 3 in the back on the 3rd row. So this, as it sits right now, can seat up to 8 passengers. So that's a significant increase over the truck, which can seat a maximum of 5. And a lot of people are going to be like, well, what's its tow capacity? What's its payload capacity? It's got over 1,400 pounds payload capacity, so it actually matches the Denali pickup truck. It's actually a little greater than the Denali pickup truck in the payload capacity area. And the towing capacity is 8,700 pounds. So it's only 100 pounds shy of the Denali's 8,800 pounds maximum towing capacity. Now, I do understand you can get pickup trucks, half tons, with a greater towing capacity rating than this. But again, this fits comfortably into that space that I always talk about of half-ton towability for your smaller RVs. Your payload capacity is typically going to be your biggest limitation. And with an SUV, you have to be very careful because some of that payload capacity is there to help support the additional people that you might bring with you over a pickup truck that seats 5. So if I bring 8 people with me and pack this thing full, depending on the size and weight of those people, I can easily eat up my cargo capacity on my Expedition quicker than I can on my Denali, simply because the Denali can only seat 5. Now, the difference here, though, is once you're seating 8 people in this SUV, your storage in the back is extremely limited. You'd pretty much have to put anything on the roof rack if you want to carry stuff with you or throw it in the RV. On the Denali, I still have a huge bed back here that I could load up with stuff. I could put a generator back there, I could put bicycles back there, I could put other equipment back there, and that can eat up my cargo capacity equally as quick, if not quicker, than the extra people that I load inside of the Expedition. So a lot of folks are going to say, well, which one should I get? The main question you have to ask yourself is, how many people do you plan on bringing with you, and how big are those people? How much do they weigh? And then how much extra gear do you plan on bringing with you as well, and where do you plan on loading that extra gear? Are you going to try to stack it on top of your SUV? Are you going to put some of it in the back? Are you going to put it in the RV? Basically, understanding placement of equipment is going to be super, super important. Now, from a frame perspective, when you get into these large SUVs, the body-on-frame SUVs, they're very similar to a pickup truck frame. They're going to have a full frame, just like on a large pickup truck, but they may have very different suspension. So you may have fully independent suspension on something like this, whereas you're going to have a solid axle in the back and independent suspension on your half-ton trucks whenever you're looking at those. Now, from my personal recommendation side of it, I really wouldn't tow as heavy with something like this as I would with something like that. Like I said, my typical recommendations for a half-ton truck, 6,500 pounds is the maximum weight I like to put behind one of these. That's actually almost pushing it for me, honestly. And then I would try to keep your tongue weight and everything pressing down on the back of your truck to under 900 pounds. If you can, that's kind of the goal. And then understanding that everyone's different in terms of their family size. If it's just a couple and you don't have kids with you, if you don't load up a bunch of stuff in the bed of your truck, you can get away with a little bit more. But again, 900 pounds pushing down on the back and a total of 6,500 pounds or less towing behind you. Now, of course, there are some trucks with higher tow packages that have much greater cargo capacity and much greater towing capacity, and you do have flexibility there depending on your comfort and what you specifically load up and how you load it up in the trailer. On something like this, though, I would probably drop down another 500, if not close to 1,000 pounds. So I really wouldn't expect folks with something like this to want to tow beyond 5,500, maybe 6,000 pounds max. And then the actual tongue weight pressing down on the back to be in the 600 to 700 pound range. Mainly because if you have something like this and you're using something like this to tow a trailer, it's probably because you have a larger family. And you can really quickly overload this and not have the tongue weight you need to be able to, or not have the capacity you need to be able to tow a trailer. So just keep that in mind. You know, these are really great for towing your mid-size to compact travel trailers. They are. But you do have to keep in mind that they give you the extra space for extra people, and those extra people are going to take away from your cargo capacity. And that's the same for a lot of similar vehicles to this, whether it's going to be a Yukon, whether it's going to be a Tahoe, whether it's going to be a Jeep Grand Wagoneer, or it's going to be some of your other full-size SUVs, which there aren't a ton of them left on the market today, believe it or not. I don't know what the specs are in that new Lexus SUV that's supposed to be almost a full-size SUV, but I think it's built on a unibody frame and not a body-on-frame, so there are going to be some limitations. The other thing to keep in mind is if you have a smaller SUV, like an Explorer or a Durango or a Cherokee, a lot of those vehicles you have to read the owner's manual on if you can actually use a weight distribution hitch system, because unibody frames, which is essentially like this engineered design where everything's kind of connected together and it's not a standard rail frame system, they react very funny to weight distribution systems, and you can actually damage your frame. So you want to be very careful if you're towing a trailer that requires weight distribution, or that you feel you need weight distribution for, whenever you're getting it set up and you're towing it with a smaller SUV that has a unibody frame. Body-on-frame designs like this, I think, are far more suited to tow those mid-size travel trailers, whereas if you're going to get something with a unibody, you have to research the manufacturer's owner's manual, go to their website, try to find a resource to let you know if you can use a weight distribution hitch. My father has a Subaru Ascent, and it has like a 6,000 pound tow capacity or 5,000 pound tow capacity, I think, and it specifically says you cannot use weight distribution on that vehicle, whereas I think Dodge Durangos and some other vehicles might give you some leeway to use one, but you have to read the owner's manual to find out specifically if your vehicle permits that or not. But I hope this video is helpful. I mean, if you have a pickup truck and you're looking at getting a large SUV, or you have a large SUV and you're wondering what the benefits of a pickup truck might be, if you're getting these larger SUVs with these greater tow capacities, you do also have to understand that it is very hard to find one with that maximum advertised towing capacity that you might see on commercials. This specific one is 8,700 pounds. So we know that my wife's Expedition has an 8,700 pound maximum tow capacity, but there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of Tahoes and other ones that are like 7,500 pounds or 6,800 pounds, and you have to understand what that number is, as well as understand what your cargo capacity is, which is going to be on the door sticker right inside of the door when you open it. So again, hope this video was helpful. If you have additional questions, leave a comment below. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. And if you use an SUV, especially a full-size SUV, to tow a travel trailer, share your setup below. Let me know what you think about how it tows, what your fuel economy is like. Fuel economy in this thing absolutely suffers regardless of what I'm towing. So you want to keep that in mind, and yeah, and describe your setup below, your trailer weight, what type of trailer you have, and again, your towing experience. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.